It's Friday!
And you're listening to So I Married an Entrepreneur, a podcast about what it takes to be in a relationship with that eternal optimist who spread thinner than melted butter on hot toast.
Yes, they're crazy. And we wouldn't have it any other way.
Life's an adventure, and they're the magic ingredient.
So, how do you embrace your spouse and enjoy the ride?
We share what it's taken to keep our relationship just as much a priority as our business ventures.
The strategies we crafted and curated to manage the stress,
The inevitable conflict, differences of opinions.
and facing our fears together. Grab a beer.
We sure will, and enjoy the show. Okay, we made it. Buenos días, Maya.
Buenas tardes, David. Almost buenas noches.
Welcome back to the podcast.
It's been a while. Like how long?
A long time. at least 6 or 7 months.
Really?
We did like 5 episodes.
And I couldn't.
Almost back to back. And then I took a back burner because life, right? Busy life.
Yeah.
Doing all sorts of things.
Like finding axolotls.
Axolotls.
That one's thing.
That was just today, though. That doesn't
Well,
count.
I'm just saying that's one of the things that life throws at you. It's like now you have to find axolotes.
Yeah. And a lot has happened inside of the last 6 months for both you and I in our businesses, our focused areas of specialization.
Yeah.
You took on a brand new type of project not too long ago.
Yes, a project that I've wanted to do for a while, and I think it started when I did this first mural down here in the basement, the studio, and just having that in my head, it slowly started showing up as like, okay, now you get to paint a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, and this last bigger was like 20 feet by 8 feet bigger.
Mm-hmm. Your first sea can. First time ever applying paint at that size.
Spray paint.
Spray paint was a last minute inclusion to that, right? Because you were just going to do a regular paint.
Yeah.
And so what happened that had you change that?
Well, I reach out to the people that I know around the city that have done murals, and I ask for recommendations and tips and what are their best, what has worked best for them. And there was few that said, some of them, it's just divided. Some people said, you know what, the spray paint is too expensive, don't do it. Some people it's like, it's way faster. So for me, it's all about, okay, I'll try I haven't tried that. I'll just try it and see how it goes. And then I get to decide what I do.
It's always, I'll try it with you, isn't it?
Always. Let me try it. Don't tell me if I can or I shouldn't. I should.
Do you think that's your superpower?
Yep.
I think it's your superpower too.
I think it's something that I tell people a lot, because when somebody asks me, well, how do you get to do what you're doing? It's because I tried and I kept trying. And I love it.
Yeah, I got to get my artist hands involved in your project as well.
How was it for you? Because it's been a while since you've been doing
Anything creative? Like
And it,
with my hands creative,
yeah,
drawing, artistic expression creative.
more painting.
You know me, I like to get my hands dirty. Sometimes. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because there was a reminiscing of days once before, like just digging in and creating and trying to figure out how do I use this medium to share, to express this story, this visual objective. And it was our first time using spray paint.
Yeah.
And we had no idea what we were doing.
And we had to cover the secant. It was all full different colors, so we have to clean it, prime it with a color that we thought it was gonna be a good idea.
What happened with the primer?
Oh, no, that was a mess too. Like, I didn't know we had to take it.
Neither of us knew.
Take it to the store and move it around so everything will combine and work properly. So
Well, it had to go through their mixer, right?
yeah,
Their shaker.
they're shaking. We didn't do that, so we had to figure out how to mix it, and it was interesting. And then we finally got to it to mix it. But then those are the little things you get to learn, like, okay. And more when they're exterior murals, you get so many different things that happen that you, unless you've been doing it for a while, you start thinking about those.
It was a process to get through, to figure it out, to use the technology. We got a little projector. We were optimistic with it. It'll work so good indoors, without question. And it fucking sucked outdoors. What a pain in the
did.
ass that was. We were, that night, trying it on, because it had to be dark, right?
Yeah.
Here's the other thing that we learned about what to do and what not to do. Like the primer versus the dark spray paint, we should have kept the primer on, and we should have done the outline on the primer before we did any sort of layer of spray paint, because that dark spray paint absorbed all of the light from the projection and we couldn't see the design very well.
And that's why for now on, like, usually, and what I've seen is when people put color in the walls or whatever you're painting, it's a light color.
Right.
So you can, if you're projecting or like you're doing your design, it's like you can see, and those different colors make sense and they pop, so you can draw on it. Whatever you use, whether it's the grid or things like that, because you have to get and go back and see if things are looking the way you want to look.
We learned a lot, and I enjoyed the process. And there was this convergence that was happening inside of our respective areas of play and exploration and being creative. And when I think about when we started, way, way, way back when we first started, the days of Ink Ocho Studios, where the essence of our intention to come together was to really create, to explore and to create, and to do cool stuff visually, right? And this is an homage back to that, to just creating something that looks really great visually, but also honors all of the work that we've gotten to this point, helped us answer the question, so what? It looks great, so what? What does it represent? What does it mean? What is the reason for its existence in the world other than just looking cool? Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with it just looking cool, and it's more impactful when there is something supporting it.
I got a lot of that project because it took me, being my first one, going out, you and me, like trying to figure out, and I thank you helped me lots, because some things where I was like, wow, what do I do now? How do I spray things? And I'm sure I could have done it by myself, and
Without
that
question.
yeah, but is that adventure with somebody, and having the conversations. There was some moments that I hated you. Like I was like, really? Like you come here and like why your way? Like I'm telling you what, and then you're like, no, because I think this would work better. And I was like, well, yeah, that's your idea, but no, I've been doing some of these longer, and I had to let that go sometimes to not, and because I knew that it wasn't just because I'd said so. It just it's something it will work better for this project. It's still a little bit cold outside. We wore some of our
That one morning,
jackets.
one morning was brutal.
It was,
We
yeah,
went there super early, right?
4:30.
We were there at 4:30, which meant we woke up. I woke up at 3:30,
Yeah.
and you shortly after that. Putting on what we thought would have been enough in terms of warmth, because this was
I was warm. You were not.
spring coming. You were just as cold. Yeah, we were both cold.
I had leggings, I had pants, and you got
Oh, did you?
yes.
Oh, damn. Yeah, no, I did not have any of that. And we ended up having to go back to the house because I was just too damn cold.
Yeah. And yeah, those things you learn, right?
You only learn when you're in it. So there was a really great lesson there, that there's something that we get to explore again together in a co-creation. And we've been naturally doing it for the entire time we've been married and in business with each other. Sometimes really intentional, other times not as intentional, but very organic, and it's always there, right? It's the underpinning heartbeat of what's at the essence of us coming together in business. And things started to shift in kind as a result, like a more intentionally as a result for me in particular, in the vein of creating, not just in the world of strategy and execution and ROI and goals and all of those constructs, which are the mainstay constructs in business, right? We're always looking to achieve some sort of objective in business, and not to diminish that, it's super important. It's what has us continue to move forward, and we are the part of this conversation is part of that planning. We're in a new quarter, right? And it is a planning exercise, but in the essence of what it is that we're creating, not necessarily what we're hoping for an output to be, and it will accommodate for that as well. There is this shift that happened for myself, and you were already on your way down that road of just creating and having this underpinning intention for wellness living there inside of what you're creating. Very, very natural, right? Not you and I. What's so different about you and I is you will just do it, and you will just go with the flow, and I will be there wondering why we're going with the flow, right? Well, we're going with the flow, but why? Why are we going with the flow? And you're like, just go with the flow. Why do you always have to answer that question in answering that question with a why? But that is just the natural tendency for me, is to ask that question, to wonder, well, how come it's going this way, and what happened that had us go this way, and what is it going to do now for us moving forward? And then bringing that conversation up and seeing, yeah, you were using creativity inside of your practice for wellness, and you've been doing that for the last 2 years, and also helping others by measure of the experience of coming together in workshops and all these just natural organic things. People said, hey, I love what you do and I want to learn how to do that. And you're like, okay. And then you build a workshop, which it's so funny how we can get caught up in, which you are right now, caught up in getting it right in order to make something available to an audience, right? Your current workshops, now the elevated versions of said workshops. And what it was just in the moment, a natural coming together, and those that saw it and wanted it just became part of it. And you created a space inside of the beginning parts of COVID for people to get grounded in the moment and let go of all of those things that was grabbing them and holding them for all of those reasons. And whereas actually they felt good about them and their lives regardless of what was going on, the chaos around them.
Yeah.
And so you've been doing this for a while. And for me, I was and I wasn't at the same time. Like there was this fun little, I had my feet in two ponds, in the pond of brand and marketing and strategic ROI. And then the other pond, it was about process of ideating and exploration and possibility for moving forward into the future, not knowing. And so in not knowing, we get to just create anything is possible in that space. And I loved playing in both of those spots, but I found myself trapped in this world of brand and marketing communications and wondering why I couldn't get enough traction in the other area of really thinking ahead, not getting so caught up in the short-term objectives. Again, super important, but not getting caught up in it. Much like you're like, yeah, we're just going to do a workshop. And I'm like, yeah, but what about this? And then you got to know what about that? And like, no, we're just going to do it. And there's a power there, right? The freedom to create.
Yeah. I noticed that I have to do things in a certain way.
The story, you mean?
Yeah, the story. Yeah, this is the way you should do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things that make that thing go in different ways. You have the control, and you can be flexible, and you can choose to do it in an easier way or in a difficult way. It's sometimes we think that when it's the structured way and like you need to plan ahead so many things, you get caught up in so much planning that when you get there, it's just like, I have no interest in doing it anymore.
Well, and the fact that it rarely actually goes the way you anticipated it going.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool the compliment we are for each other, because I am not the planner. You are. And you are not the just go with the flow, but I am. And so when we come and work together, we learn from each other and we adapt and use some of the other, like I use some of your planning, now I'm more organized. And I think if I wouldn't take on what we've been learning and you have taught me, we would be so lost in creating a business. Some people even ask me, like, how do you keep up with the business? Like, you are very seasonal. I've been doing this for 2 years. It is very in my intuition. Whatever I feel, I'll do and see if that works or not. And for the next season, I might change things. And I feel that I've been doing that. Like my very first season was a lot of pet portraits, commissions, markets, and things like that. Last year, we couldn't do markets, but I got a bunch of commissions. I did a bunch of different ads and do ornaments for Christmas. It's you adapt and change things depending on what makes you happy and things that you want to explore, learn.
You talk about your intuition guiding you, and I think you forget that what has gotten you to this point, while it has a strong leaning towards intuition, and I think you're mostly right in that. I also think that you forget that you have like almost 20 years worth of design, art, communications experience that has a measure of creativity intermixed with system and structure that is supporting your ability to just allow yourself, give yourself the freedom to just explore, because it's coming from a context of understanding a great many things that many just beginning don't have any context for.
Yeah, totally. And it just, for me, it's natural. Like I just do it.
It's part of your intuitive
But
guide.
why? Well, I learned that for like 20 years ago, so I'm just gonna do it that way. I'll bring some of that experience. It's just part of what I do.
Yeah, so the conversation that I want to have with you is about what's next. This is the conversation that I'm now really committed to having with everybody that I am working with, is a conversation about what's next, about what's possible, about if anything would go, what would happen, knowing and understanding and appreciating what our core competencies are, what your core competencies are, and adding to that, right? In addition to, we are both naturally exploring what's possible. What else could we add? You're going bigger. You just submitted another proposal for a 17-meter high wall. No? It's how big is it again?
It's 400 feet.
Right. Yeah. And so there is just a propensity for growth. We are always doing that kind of work, but organically, not necessarily intentionally. Right? This is part of our crux, right? We will just go with the flow, and we will adapt, and we will improve, and we will include, and we will remove by measure of how the circumstances dictate we feel it should go. It's our greatest strength and it's our greatest weakness, right? In a lot of ways, and it's just fascinating when you spend the time to look at your life as it's happened, right? All this time up until this point, to see the choices that you made and what had it have you land where you are right now. And this is all part of the creative process. Your future was to explore a new place, to try something different, and that was the intention. It's like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to do something different. And then what came out of that was that and more, because you kept on inquiring, you kept on asking about that. You kept on embracing that curious tendency to have what's next unfold, and you just kept going that way. Now, at the time, it was very automatic. Yeah. It was very organic. It just happened. You went with the flow with it, and I suspect there was the intuitive feeling of it likely was a big guide for you, right? Like, yeah, this feels good, and so, but you couldn't articulate it that way. You just went with it. And so it was very automatic in that way. And what it's come to now for us in our business, we've been at this for 13 years, and 7th iteration in our business, this next one in around embracing our strength as humans to create and to be creative. And out of doing that, we are visionary by default. if we are willing to guide and direct it with a bit more intention and not be caught up in the objectives in the short term, right? We're constantly caught up in the objectives of the short term, wondering what to do next. What do we do now? What do we do now? Because that's not why we're here. We're not here to make more widgets to sell to other people who maybe need a widget. How many widgets do you need at the end of the day? You don't need them all, right? And we're getting to this point where it's like, nah, yeah, I don't need more stuff. So if it's not stuff, well, what is it? And that's now where that fundamental existential question lives that has you tap into your untapped reserve of creativity, of like pure curiosity and exploration of the future. It lives inside of what we haven't even thought of yet, our futures, our potential futures. And I keep going back to where Brand is Truth came together, right? This motley crew of people thinking that we were coming together to help do branding differently, more holistically, more completely. And we did achieve that, but the box that we were playing in was too small for all of us. It wasn't enough for all of us. We trapped ourselves in our own paradigm of expertise as brand builders, and everybody's understanding of brand, society's understanding of brand, the box that all of that lives inside of, could not hold the vast possibility that we would create. It needed to then be simplified and minimized in order to fit inside of the short-term objective of the brand marketing communication strategy of the business that needed to achieve X. And so it is no wonder that we all ended up seeking other things, but we didn't know why. Not truly. For myself, it was because I didn't want to create something to just help someone sell more stuff. That part was clear for me. But I didn't know, if it's not this, then what is it? I couldn't answer that question. It was part of the next chapter of my journey that I had to figure out. And having those checks and balances come in, go, well, is it this? And me go, yeah, no, that's definitely not it. Is it this over here? No, that's not it either. Is it human resources and culture focused? It's like, well, maybe. I mean, it is about people. But that's still a paradigm in its own right? It's its own box that has its own parameters and boundaries that those that operate inside of are familiar with, and nothing wrong with that. But the work of exploring what's possible has no box. There's no box for this work. That came to me when a question was positioned to ask, what is it in service of for you as its owners? And when I was presented with that question and I answered it, much like you answered it, it's like, yeah, to be creative. Like I just want my business to enable me to be creative. It opened up this whole world that was already there. It was just, I wasn't looking for it because I had my brand blinders on, right? Oh, I got to help people build their personal brands, and I'm going to coach around brand, and I'm going to consult around brand. And it's like, no. Yeah, brand is important. And actually, this work influences your brands and what you become known for. But it's not about brand. It's bigger than that.
We are creators.
Yeah.
That's innate. That's what makes us humans. Since we are babies, somebody puts Lego in front of us and we start putting it together. Mm-hmm. Somebody puts colors in front of you, you start putting color in the walls. It is just part of who we are. And some people think that it's not, that, oh, well, I am not created. And that's a big thing that happens when we're little, right?
If our intention, our purpose is to help us and others to create and be creative, be visionary, to think about what's possible and on our own wellness as a result, who do we need to be in relation to that purpose? Who do you need to be in the world to have that happen?
I need to believe that I can do and be that creative person that I want to be, and I stand for what I want to share.
I love that distinction, and this is an ontological distinction. It's the philosophy of being, if you don't know about it. And to be a stand for something, or to be cause in the matter, is that you believe that it is something so worth investing your time and energy into that you will do something about it because it is synonymous with who you are in the world. And so obligation, the feeling of needing to do it as opposed to wanting to do it, those polar areas really start to separate themselves away. This is not a needing to do phenomenon.
It's been a while now since I felt it, but for me, my procrastination is looking for creative ways for me to explore what else. Where, like this weekend, I was drawing something while watching a workshop on graffiti, while printing some stuff for my work, the commissions that I have to do. But all that makes me happy. All that makes me feel like, whereas like if I have to build a website, depending on the type of client that I have in that world, it's like a website.
Mm-hmm.
But here it's like I painted something, didn't like it, cover it over again and try it again. And before I will be very attached to that. Now it's like, keep going, next, and you're late. Because why? You've been trying to paint other things and explore how to draw this thing and that thing. And all that shows in what I'm sharing with people. All my social media stuff. Yeah, it's social media. Sometimes you can tell when I'm not being truthful to what I'm sharing. But when I come to, this is something that is in my world right now, and I share it with people get it, and people get connected, and then people feel that they want to do it in their own way that they can do it. So yeah, these turnets
Some oil or something.
yeah.
So inside of that being, which what is it again?
Being a stand up for creativity and wellness practice.
So you're a stand for creativity as a wellness practice. What new practices are you going to implement in order to be effective in that stand?
Something that I feel that I haven't implemented, that I keep failing at implementing, is the physical activity. And if I keep not doing that, I'm soon not going to be able to be creative and using creativity as a wellness practice, because I'm going to be not able to move or use my arm.
Right.
Because I've been lazy and that other side of life. So what I want now is, and what I see is using that physical activity also as my wellness practice, so I can keep being creative.
Yeah. We go into our extreme focuses, right? Insert anything into that equation. Maybe you've got your physical fitness down pat, and at what cost? What other areas have been compromised as a result? So yeah, that's really great. Is there any other new practices that you would then implement on top of that?
It is all around that, eating better, so it still counts. So it can affect also my physical, and not just me, but my whole family. Because the moment I make those changes, it affects everybody around me. So.
And when you talk about, when I mention what being a stand for is, it's like distinct from need and want.
Yeah.
Right
now it feels like I need to do that.
Yeah.
But I need to be a stand for it. Like it just needs to be that. It doesn't need to be, but
right. You get to be a stand for.
Yeah, it's just natural. It's just my sister, like, why do you have to go to bed so late? Because I am creating. Yes, but she is very athletic, fit into that world, right? She's like, well, you could wake up early and do your workout and then keep doing with your life, whatever you're doing. I'm like, yeah. I could also work out in the afternoon or evening, and it's just not happening because I haven't made the choice to just make it part of my daily routine. When I do that and it doesn't feel like it's so much work, and it just feels like, oh, I feel amazing, that's when things start changing.
So that's a milestone that both you and I get to take on, not need to take on. We get to because we see what's possible, and we don't know what that potential future looks like, but we could speculate what that looks like, right? And what that would deliver for us. What about inside of the business? We're pretty clear what we need to have happen from a revenue standpoint to really have it work well for our family, right? For our family to have what it needs and more in order to be creative, to create and be creative in this world. Because everything needs a little bit of fuel, right? A little ignition to be able to light the spark.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, what do you think are those new practices that we need to implement, we get to implement in our business?
In the business.
Let's say from your side of the business. Or
I've been thinking about doing the outreach, which I have always have a little trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I don't feel that confident. I hate to be salesy, and it's like, hey, I have this thing, buy it from me, it's amazing. And I just don't like that. And lately I've been very comfortable at people reaching out and me explaining something because I'm the expert. And now I want to explore it in that way, as like me reaching out. I am the expert, and this is something that can be amazing for what you're doing. If you're in, let's talk. If you're not, let's move on. And as like simple like that. And I feel that what I'm creating now, it's also for bringing the community. So I'm trying to do art that is inclusive. Yeah, that reaching out to people, because right now I feel cool because people are reaching out to me, and that's awesome. I don't have to be, hey guys, please. I've been doing that, but I feel that if I want to grow the business and bring it to where we want, I need to start reaching out, and I need to be a little bit out of that comfort zone that sometimes feels good.
So what does engaging powerfully with others look like in that context?
I feel that I have to have something where it's very clear what am I offering, and so you can say yes or no. And like this, somebody comes to me and asks me how much for this wall, and I was like, okay, yeah, we need all these things, and or why would I need a mural now?
So you and I, we operate very similarly in the context of human beings doing business together. We don't come in with the sales pitch. We don't come in with the value proposition right out of the gate, and then with the call to action at the end to have them make a choice or not. At the core of how we are as humans in the world, in business, it does not align. And there's a balance between building relationships, having relationships be the primary driver, the building of relationships be the primary driver, and our communication landing clearly where they see the opportunity to do business together. Does that make sense?
Say it just one more time. The community.
We are relationship driven.
Yeah.
And so we come with the intention to build relationship. But then what's missing is our ability to communicate clearly when the opportunity presents itself, knowing what the opportunity actually looks like, creating the potential opportunity if it has not yet been created yet. That does not, the potential output of that could be a sale.
And that's what happened while I was painting that mural. Somebody came and said, can you do this wall right beside the wall that you're doing, well, the second that you're doing? And I said, sure. How much? I don't know. Somebody paid, well, community paid this much for this mural. And I didn't get his card number, anything, to be able to reach out and
to build a relationship.
And do yeah.
Exactly. So inside of who you need to be, who you get to be, there is no need here, right? But who you get to be is someone who is intentional in your relationship building and understands how to communicate clearly so that they, whoever you speak to, can make a powerful decision. Yes or no. So that's the opportunity for us to think about, for you to spend some time on and go in your own silo, in your own arena, and flesh out in a rough draft what you think your potential milestones are going to be. And I will do the same. And then we come together and we finalize them to have them supported in a co-creation of some sort, whatever that looks like, because we are focused in very different areas. And I also think that there is an opportunity to kind of bridge the divide a little bit. So for those listening, yeah, we're half a year in. to 2021, which means 2022's right around the corner. And there's work to be done. And there's nothing wrong with where you're at. There's simply a conversation to be had about what it is that you want to create. And are you actually doing the things that you said you would do to have that future, one of many, be realized? And are you excited, if you are doing the work, about that future? Or do you find yourself kind of dragging your ass a little bit on it because there's something about it that you haven't quite figured it out. You haven't quite resolved it. And so you're not doing anything about it. You are procrastinating, delaying it because it's missing that thing that lights you up. Well, stop ignoring it and spend the time in contemplation around it, write about it so that you can clearly define it and you can communicate that powerfully with others as a result. And in doing that, you start to begin the process of moving in that direction. And new things are going to emerge as a result, and you're going to wish that you had done this sooner. Yeah, what's up? There's no paper. What? The paper's over there.
In the corner.
Thank you for listening to the So I'm Married an Entrepreneur podcast series on the Just Life.
Love the episode?
Head over to iTunes or Spotify to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We'd sure appreciate it.
I dare you to join us in the studio for Friday session.
Let us know. Could be a good option for that date night you keep saying you want to plan. We'll be back again next week, celebrating wins and revealing what goes on behind the curtains.
Did you relate to something in this episode?
We'd love to know in the comments. Or, if you prefer, you can send us a private message or email us. Have a great rest of your weekend.